Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to talk about BC Kid. I almost said bonk.
I almost thought BC's Quest for Tires, so it works out.
We'll get to that, I'm sure, eventually. Did that come out on the Amiga?
What's that?
BC's Quest for Tires?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's a great game.
It is a great game.
I played it mostly on the ColecoVision back in the day.
But before we get into BC Kid, why don't we talk about what's going on in the world of the Amiga, Aaron?
The world of the Amiga. You talking news here?
I'm talking news.
Let's get into it. We've got some news. Just a few items, and then we'll go over the site stuff. I've got my trusty handy dandy here. I'm just going to start at the top and work our way back since I haven't covered the news for a couple weeks. So right off the bat, let's just go into the fact that the new Amiga kit or Amy kit is out. The software the boat uses, and I use it on occasion. I think it's called X is the version. Sexy. And it is supposed to be real nice. I have not tried it yet. It popped out about 6 days ago, I think. And it looks okay. It's gotten good reviews. You use the older version quite a bit. I mean, you still dig it pretty much, don't you? I mean, that's what you're using primarily.
I don't know if I use Amy Kit or not, actually.
Yeah, that's what you usually use after you boot up your desktop.
Is it Amy Kit, though?
Yeah.
Are you sure? I always thought Amy Kit was that thing that looked like a cat.
That's it.
Mine doesn't look like a cat.
Well, it's just a logo that comes up.
I use WinUAE.
Right, but it's a variance of it. I'm the one that installed it. I got rid of that. He uses it sometimes, but I use it myself sometimes. It's a good little program. Like I said, I heard the new one's good, so if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. Like I said, that's sort of old hat, but I saw it come up and figured I'd mention it. So I mentioned this a while back. Project Paula. It's a tribute to the Amiga years by a synthwave cyberpunk group. Anyway, they've released their project for free. We've got a link on the web page on the Google Plus page. I have heard a couple of these tunes, all right, and they're good. All right, have you heard any of these yet?
Let's take a listen to one real quick.
All right. We don't have a very rare audio break.
Yeah, why don't we listen to just the track 1, side 1. This is Volker X.
Oh, from Ophidia. I love it. Sounds good already.
Oh yeah. That's Amiga right there. That's Amiga.
That is nice. I love it. That's a freebie. Everyone should go get this, and then send these guys kudos. You know, that's the best. That's great. This week, this was all over the place. This Ars Technica.
Yeah, it's funny. I posted it.
Yeah,
and then you posted it.
Yeah. Then I'll occasionally
good
do
work
that.
out of you.
Yeah, we'll see. I like to make sure things are thoroughly covered. I read this article here, and since you're the guy that scooped me, what do you think about this? Give us a.
Okay, well, what this is an entirely new computer. They built this tower from the ground up using some really exotic components. The CPU is a PowerPC based architecture.
Yeah.
And there's a weird sort of GPU Xenon or Xena. There's this coprocessor, because in Amiga you can't call it a GPU, it's got to be a coprocessor.
That's right.
And it's It's a new Amiga. I mean, that's what it is.
It'll cost you.
It runs a Amiga OS 4.1.
Yeah.
And it will run with the help of Amiga Forever. It will run all of your legacy Amiga software. It is expandable. You can put up to 32 gigabytes of RAM in it. It looks really cool. I guess it looks like a tower.
It looks like just any old PC.
Yeah. Now, I guess it is going to have the Amiga Boing ball on it. The machine that Ars Technica received to review was sort of a non-production machine. But, like you said, $2,000 for a new Amiga.
Yes,
so,
it's a pricey number.
If you are in the market for a machine that has little to no current software support on an OS, while impressive in its own right, is not quite as streamlined as some of the more recent operating systems, but if you just want something different and you got money to throw around, by all means, pick this thing up.
Sure. And I mean, if I had unlimited money, right, I would absolutely buy one of these and build it to spec. It looks awesome. I'm sure it could do some awesome stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, I have a minimal knowledge of 4.1 and what you can do with it, but I mean, it's a good article too. They really get down to the nitty gritty.
Right.
I was pretty impressed because those guys usually do a good job. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was interesting. Like I said, I saw it everywhere, so thought I'd bring it up. I don't think we talked about this. The company, our favorites, that make the EXE versions of Amiga games, sort of the emulator, the game, all in one tight package. They have sent out a game, Janisa, I believe is the way it's pronounced. They phrase it as a populist/settlers-like strategy game. So it might be fun. I haven't tried it. But that they released that. It's been about a week ago. I linked up a video. Again, all this stuff's available on our Google Plus page. Gosh, come on over and sign up. We've got about 160 people now on there, which again, this is Google Plus, not too bad. Another item that came across the desk, I've been waiting for this one, Boat, and I see you've got it queued up there. The official trailer of It Came From the Desert, the Cinemaware classic. This is made by who knows and who knows what and who knows where. The trailer looks almost exactly like I thought it would look. It's like, B or C grade movies can have pretty decent effects these days. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever saw Birdemic. It's a horrible film with hideous special effects, and it's very renowned for how horrible it is. And this is not Birdemic. This has some decent effects, and it looks like it could be amusing on the level. I mean, you've got to accept it for what it is. I like the logo. There's a big ant face. These two guys are going to fight the ants with a spatula. But it was amusing enough for me to not be scared to death. This wasn't picked up by Paramount, folks. I mean, this is like Joe and Bob's studio. I don't know who's doing it. I can't remember now. But, hey, it might be fun. Mm-hmm. So if you're into that sort of thing, and God knows I am, have a look at it.
Do you think it will rank up there with Machete?
No. Machete and Crank are in a league of their own. Speaking of wacky videos, a fella posted a video. It's called Miggy's First Dance. Now, Miggy's First Dance, it starts off with an Amiga 1000 with a monitor, sitting in a abandoned warehouse. And then the Amiga starts playing a song, and then it dances. It dances around. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. In fact, Boat's got it running for you watching the video. It's great. I found it highly amusing. And this popped up. I'm telling you where I saw this. This might have been on the English Amiga boards, or it may have been in the Facebook page, the very awesome Amiga Facebook page. But I told you, Boat's watching this. This is the first time you've seen this, right?
Yeah, I've not seen this before.
It's dumb and stupid, but someone did a good job rendering that. I found it pretty amusing. You want to talk about this Boat put up a link this week, a serial to Wi-Fi adapter for the Amiga. I think Laurent Leroux was behind. Was the guy that sent this over.
Laurent Leroux. Thank you for sending that in. It is basically a Wi-Fi to serial adapter.
Nice. Now I'm
the
Amiga.
For the link and I can't find it.
I've got a Wi-Fi adapter on. Now I don't have it actually in it right now because I've got my an interface CF interface in there. But if you have a PCMCIA slot, there's a couple Wi-Fi adapters you can get that'll work on the Amiga.
Yeah, this one looks really slick. It's really compact.
That does look like, and that looks nice. Mm-hmm. They've got it compressed down to sit right behind the serial port.
It's not hanging out too much.
I guess is that a USB port? I say hanging off the back end of it.
Yeah, it looks like a micro.
Of course, but that's I can see a use. The reason I've never hooked mine up is, to be honest with you, I never knew what I would do with it. Mm-hmm. Now I know you can. We should have a quick discussion about this. I know you can take your classic Amiga, and you can get online with it. You can telnet. You can do basic web surfing. What do you think about that? If I had my 1200 and did that, I guess my question is, what would you do with it? I mean,
that's
just for fun.
I remember when I was in college, we had a computer in my fraternity's office that it had links on it or something like links. It was text only web browser. And I remember at that point you could still use it for most things because most sites were still coded in such a way that it would display the text. These days, with everything being coded in HTML5 and stuff like that, I don't even know if anything would render properly in a text-only web browser.
I saw, it's funny, I watched a video this week of a guy who drug out his modem. I think it was Nostalgia Nerds who it was on YouTube, and he hooked it up to his computer, and he dialed up there are still portals you can dial up to get internet access. They're quite common around here because it's so rural. And he got on at like 33K and was trying to surf the net. And I distinctly remember him going to one website, and after he gave up after 33 minutes of it trying to load, some websites like the Google main page, as it says Google, it'll load up pretty quick. But it was so ludicrous that he just gave up. It was stuff with timeout, you know.
Yeah.
So really, if you're on a modem, you're screwed. Now, like I said, I could get the Amiga up on the modem with no problem. I've even got my old software for it.
And you can still dial in. There's still BBSs out there and stuff like that.
I can see that. Mm-hmm. But in terms, if you're hooking up with your Wi-Fi strictly to network at home, I can see that. But really,
if you're trying to pull stuff down from online on the World Wide Web, you're going to be waiting a long, long time.
I will say this. If anyone out there listening has a setup where they do that, and they're at home shaking their fist at the radio, going like, no! I'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you do with your, even if it's not Wi-Fi, but just network, what are you doing with it? Mm-hmm. With your classic Amiga. There's plenty of reasons to hook up the newer ones. But with your classic Amiga, I always wonder about that. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm missing something here because I can't think of a reason to bother doing that.
Here's another piece of news that I posted on the Google+. This actually came from Patreon supporter Darren Coles. Have you heard of Flashtro before?
I don't know. I think I may have. Did you mention this came up way back at some point?
So yeah, I think that we might have talked about this a long, long time ago. But they've been down for a while, but they are back. And this is a collection of all of the best crack screens on the Amiga done in Flash or something like that, so you can watch them in real time.
That's awesome.
And Darren mentioned that oftentimes these screens were more entertaining than the games themselves.
That's true.
Yeah. So you just go here, flashtro.com, you click on one of these, and
you deafen people. That's nice. That's a good little tune.
Yeah.
That is great. The crack screen. It's funny now. Of course, piracy's bad or whatever. But let's be realistic. The guys that cracked these things, whether you liked them or not, they were pretty skilled demo artists a lot of times, and they were almost always they had good tunes, even if the demo parts weren't that good, So that's handy actually.
Yeah. So. You can relive all of that stuff over.
You can write these addresses and see who's raced back now. People just posting their stuff. You've mentioned that before, how bizarre it is to see how brazen they were about it.
Oh, yeah. And so there's just, a billion of these, 198 pages of crack screen intros.
I'm going to have to check some of those out. One thing I wanted to mention, the guys over at the Retro Hour were very nice and mentioned us on their show. Again, they've mentioned us a couple times. And they were plugging our magazine, which has recently been changed to Kickstart, and the new issue's out. It's great, and not just because I'm in it, but because it's, as usual, it's always great. It's another good read. I don't know if we'd mentioned the new issue. I think what issue was 7?
This is 7.
That's incredible. He's cranked out that many of these things.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is June. All the news is from June 1991.
So we appreciate the magazine, obviously, and we appreciate the Retro Hour for mentioning it. Retro Hour is a great show. They're as we've said before, they're a professional bunch. Who they know everybody. They get all the great interviews on the show. And
speaking of Kickstart, why don't you plug your article a little bit?
I had a epiphany a month or so ago when playing my old friend Lionheart, and my
favorite part of this article is the fact that in the first, the title is that's not how you spell that kind of defense.
Hey, don't look at me.
Good work, Aaron.
What makes you? I think it's a typo. Obviously, a magazine typo.
Right.
But please go ahead. Are you going to pick it apart?
I'm going to pick it apart sentence by sentence. No.
That much said, you both killed this game. And I went back and re-listened to the episode we did on Lionheart, and you were much kinder on the show than you were behind the scenes. He was killing it. And I thought, this is not a bad game. I played it and I enjoyed it.
Lionheart was the reason why I almost wanted to stop doing it.
Oh my God, you're killing me now.
I hated it so much.
Now after reading this article, which plainly in English in front of you, broken or otherwise, explains and lays out the details of why this is a good game, are you now prepared to admit that this is a good game that you will now enjoy?
I am prepared to admit that I did not give Lionheart the props that it deserves for the reasons that you mentioned.
By the way,
absolutely,
I want to also give the magazine credit for actually making this look much better than my words are.
It really
looks just
looks
like something that would have appeared in a magazine.
Did you?
No, I did none of that.
So
no.
Neil did all of this
he's
stuff.
a genius layout man.
He is awesome at the layout. I mean, this looks really, really.
Because I read that, I was like, man, this is great. Who put this in here? I was like, oh, I was involved in that. So yeah, it was great. I've never really written anything for the site or anything, so it was kind of fun to fail miserably in your eyes, but still, it was fun for me.
No, seriously, I read this whole article, and you make great points, and just looking at the graphics really made me appreciate it more. When you're in those first couple levels, you don't really get to see all that the game has to offer, and it really is a graphical tour de force. It really is.
Especially, like I said, if they did an AGA version, I don't know what they could have improved graphically.
Yeah.
But that much said, it's a real good magazine. Pick it up. And on that note, why don't you take us through some of the site updates and our contests and our whatnot?
Well, I will, but before I do that, I want to take you to a restaurant I like to call Amigos Taqueria.
I hear it's great.
So Jonas Rullo sent this in. This is a Amigos Taqueria restaurant in the heart of Mexican country, Hawaii.
He's so lucky to live out there. Now he's got the best Mexican food and ever parking.
Yeah,
he's got everything going for him. It's a lovely picture for those in radio land of the sign. So I'm happy to be we're represented.
Yeah,
okay. It can also further your hatred of our name that you've never liked.
So before we get into the site updates, let's talk a little bit about challenge number 3. So if you go over to everythingamiga.com/forums. Actually, before we talk about challenge number 3, we should probably bring up challenge number 2.
The less said about challenge number 2, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
So challenge number 2 was, and if you aren't aware of what the Amigos challenges are, every once in a while, we choose a game, and everybody submits a score, recording them or playing the game. And this past Amigos Challenge was the Footbag event of California Games. Now, first of all, we got to give lots of credit to Amigo Brutal Barracuda.
Barracuda, who's a continual machine,
because he is the brains behind this operation, and he put all of this together.
Now, who do we point the finger of doom at? The lunkhead, the moron, the imbecile that decided to pick this event and this game for this challenge. Who was this goober?
It was me.
Oh, I'm so
It was
sorry.
me.
Folks. Good Lord, it was brilliant.
You know, I've always liked the Footbag event. It's always it's pastoral. You got the Golden Gate Bridge behind you. It's just like you know, you just take a deep breath and you take it in. You take in the scenery.
Footbag, you say?
Yeah, and so if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see. All of the entrance videos are shown at once, so you can see the different strategies.
It's quite amazing how he did that.
Yeah. And Paul Harrington was the winner. He perfected the Dizzy Dean maneuver.
Perfected the crap out of it.
And totally destroyed by like a factor of 10 everybody else's top scores.
I will say, like I was talking to you on the pre-show, I've never liked this event. And I like California Games. I'm not a big fan of Footbag. And I'll tell you, the more I tried to do well at this, and I recorded a lot of video for it, and I swear to you, I hate to admit it, but the more I played it, the more I got into it. I really was digging it at the end, and I found myself playing it a few more times after the contest was over, just to see if I could do what he did, and with the Dizzy Dean. And I can't consistently do it like him. Just over. He did it for like I don't know how many he got in a row. It was just like ludicrous. I was like, man, how's he doing it? Perfect timing.
Right, and you can see Amigos Challenge number 1 was Jaguar XJ220. Challenge 2, of course, the Footbag. And our latest challenge is Pinball Dreams. I believe the loser of the Amigos from this past challenge got to pick that. Who was that loser?
That was me. I will say, but I'll preface this by saying, hey, I thought I did pretty well at Footbag until I watched the video. I did not do well at Footbag. But I thought, you know, let's get this old school. Let's take it down to the bare bones. And I thought, what's the Amiga do better than anybody else? Pinball. And what was one of their all-time great tables? Well, it was Pinball Dreams, and it was the awesome beatbox table. And so, and I think we both agreed that was our favorite table from the first one. I remember. And so I thought this would be a perfect contest. So this month's contest is Pinball Dreams Beatbox 3-ball. And all you have to do is record your game, and when you record it, send it. If you go to our forums, there are precise directions on how to play the game, the settings for the game, where to get the game, and where to send your video. It's quite simple. There's no sign up required. There's no really anything required. You just go for it.
Right.
And it's open to everybody, not just Amigos or Patrons. Anybody that wants to get on, we'd love to have a ton of people. It gives you an excuse to get into your discs, right? Pull one out and throw down. And it's always a good time. I'll have to admit that I haven't thrown California Games, and I'd never played that Jaguar game we played. Never even played that one, but I ended up liking that too. So it's a good way to discover games. I think we've had a good mix so far, and who knows? You could be the big winner, or you could be the guy that gets to pick the next game, depending on how well me and Boat do at it.
So that is the Amigos Challenge. As far as some of the other updates on the site, there's been, every week there's a whole flood of new content.
It's funny, when I look at the news, to gather news, our site makes up a big chunk of the news.
We've got the Bit Generation series continues from Neil. He is going through the third generation, the 8-bit era, which of course covers the Commodore 64, the Atari 8-bit computers, and he's just really gone to town again, going through all of the different accessories and everything that came with each one of these machines, so you can check that out. Dreamcatcher has done a retrospective on Ed the Duck. Ed the Duck was an Amigos Plays done by Chris Folds a couple weeks ago, and Dreamcatcher has really blown the lid off the Ed the Duck coverage. I mean, he's gone and interviewed people. He's really gone more in depth with Ed the Duck than I'm almost sure anyone else has ever.
I looked at this article, and I don't know jack squat about Ed the Duck.
What? You didn't grow up watching
Ed the Duck? I knew the video.
Duck?
No, I had heard of it. I had a vague recollection of what it was.
I'd never heard of it.
And what a bizarre tale this is.
Yeah.
A weird what a weird show.
Yeah, I mean, all the production, the fact that they taped it in a broom closet,
and the fact that this guy has like hit albums and crap. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read. And of course, you're right. He doesn't go into some detail or a lot of detail. It's like he reaches down and sucks out every bit of juice from the bones, the details of this thing.
Dreamcatcher never does anything halfway.
No, he is he's a star. Yeah. I don't know how he ended up on our side is a miracle.
So check that out. Dreamcatcher also, this is probably the first ever Amigos real scoop we've ever had. There's a former ocean coder, Michel Janicki. He's launched a new Kickstarter with a homebrew games development console. It's called the Console 101, and he's launched a Kickstarter where you can purchase one of these development kits that's actually based on an Arduino board. And he's hoping that people will accept the limitations of that board as sort of a challenge to create really worthwhile gameplay experiences. So
this is sort of like almost like a learner console, right?
Yeah,
sort of I will say, I looked at this at first and I was puzzled a little bit when I read what it was going to be, but it makes sense the more I think about it, because what he says is true. Some of the best stuff is made. I mean, look, why is the 2600 scene so vibrant, or the ColecoVision, the homebrew? It's because people work within the confines of that, and they can make beautiful things with such limited scope and ability there's not a whole lot to work with there, and it's very impressive when they can pull something off. So a console that dwells in that area, I can see the appeal of it. And he actually shows off a few games. I know one of them was straight up Anteater. If you've ever played Anteater in your arcade,
oh yeah.
I mean, it was straight up.
This is Pang. I mean,
yeah, it was just straight up Pang. Yeah. But I mean, it looks good. You know, I believe it's got VGA outputs on it. It's I've never used an Arduino, but I'm fairly familiar with what they are. You know, hey, good luck to the fella. I mean, I think there might be something to it. It would probably be a really excellent thing to an intermediate programmer that's trying to up his game.
Right, right.
And the Anteater clone looks good as well. Yeah,
we wish him the best of luck. It looks like there's 30 days to go, and as of today, there's been $820 pledged out of the goal of $2,236.
I think he's got a real good chance because he's not greedy. He's not getting greedy. That's a very low amount.
He is not asking for the tens of thousands that you get a lot of these guys asking for.
Sure. Plus, he's got something there you can look at.
Yeah.
So, good luck to him.
Gary Hucker has been busy. He is our Amigos Labs coordinator. Not only did he post an exploding capacitor, which is one of our most popular videos of all time.
It is quite a sight to see the billows of magic smoke pour out of that drive.
But he's posted some pictures of a super drive power supply. And so this is just kind of going.
That's the one that blew.
Yeah, this is the one that blew up, and so there were lots of people that had very technical questions about trying to trace exactly why that capacitor did explode.
And so of course, Gary's more than happy to get in there.
Yeah,
it's funny. I was watching that video, the second one he did on that, and he explains what went wrong. And what went wrong was his incredible eye for detail. He patched a jumper that had been cut. That was supposed to be cut. And so he'd actually caught it, fixed it, and then once it blew, he realized it wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
So it was, but I mean, still, that could happen. I mean, I've seen that plenty of times. So, but it was, he gets in there, another guy who really is good at explaining what he's up to as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that pretty much wraps up the site updates for this week. So, Aaron,
I'm sure we're missing stuff. So, just check
out
the site.
Yeah, everythingamiga.com.
Yeah,
there's
every
tons
day.
of stuff on there.
Every day, it's new stuff. It never ends, does it, Bo?
It never ends. So, let's talk about the game.
Okay, what do you got?
BC Kid.
BC Kid.
So, this game, I'll tell you what I know about this game.
Okay.
Going into it. This game was not an original Amiga design. This game was based off another game called Bonk that was for the TurboGrafx 16 in the USA. In Europe, I guess it was called the PC Engine, the same as in Japan. Is that correct?
Well, the naming on this is bizarre. All right, and I'm going to try to explain this with the help of Wikipedia. Cause when I saw this, I never made the connection for years and years that Bonk was out on the Amiga. I knew about Bonk, because from the commercials. In America, the TurboGrafx 16 was a low-level console. It got commercials and stuff early on, but we didn't hear much about it, did we? I mean, really, I know you probably don't remember that much, but I remember, and it was something you'd see it. And really, it's funny that the only things I remember ever seeing for it are Bonk. The commercials always had Bonk.
Well, I remember I talked about this on the live stream. Whenever they would advertise the Turbo Express, the portable version, it would always have Bonk in the jaws of the dinosaur.
And so Bonk was for me. If you ask me, what do you know about the TurboGrafx 16? I'd be like, well, Bonk's on there. That's the only thing I could have told you. I mean, for the longest time. So when I found out that this is on the Amiga and it was called BC Kid, I was like, that's strange. Why would they change the name? Why would they change the name to something that no one would recognize? And of course, this is the States. This is me in the States saying this. Well, it turns out that this actually is not a weird thing if you look at the way this guy was named. So in Japan, Bonk wasn't called Bonk. Okay, he was called GB Jinjin.
That sounds like some sort of gangster from
Manchester. He was also called FC Jinjin. He was also called BC Jinjin. He was also called PC Jinjin. Right now, why? You're asking yourself, why would he be called this? Well, when he came, of course, in Japan, the TurboGrafx is called PC Engine. Right, so they would change the names to be. In this case, BG Jinjin is basically and they would have cute little things that instead of being PC wouldn't stand for personal computer, it would stand for Plesorius controller, some sort of caveman sounding acronym or whatever. And then so that was the way they named it. When it was on the when it was out on the Game Boy, he was GB.
Okay.
Why would he? Because he's on Game Boy. If he's right. Okay. What was the Nintendo called over there? Famicom, right? FC, right? So if you look at the opening of this game, when it says BC Kid, it says Plaeicus something or another. There's a little thing under it, although it's not B, it's P. But the abbreviation was supposed to, so that's where they get the name. Okay. So when it was time to come to America, and they were like, Bonk. We're gonna go with Bonk. But since but when they went with the Amiga, they carried on the tradition that they'd started everywhere but the TurboGrafx 16 in America, which was, so that's the naming. I know it's bizarre, but I mean it's
interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So they weren't ashamed of it. They weren't trying to hide the fact it was Bonk. It was none of those things, because those are things I thought it might have been. I know I actually gave this some thought when I found out about it. So let's talk about it. Bonk came out on the Amiga, or BC Kid. I'm going to interchange the name. Came out in 1992. This was several years after it was originally released in Japan, and it was even a couple years after it was released on the TurboGrafx in America. It was released in Japan it was 89 initially. So This is several years later. So it was published by Hudson Soft, and I think Ubisoft had a hand in there somewhere as well. And it was the port for the Amiga was done by Factor 5. Okay, Factor 5 did a lot of good stuff. Obviously, they did R-Type is the one that instantly comes to mind. They did Daenerys. They did Catechus. They did the Turrican series. Enough said. All right, and they did. This is a game we've got to try sometime. Tony and Friends in Kellogg Land. So I don't know. What
doesn't sound like a product placement game at all.
No, it sounds great. The music on Bonk is. I mean, this game runs pretty close to the TurboGrafx version with now, and me and Boat will get into this later because I already know we're going to go down the road, but with some graphic modifications that were done in the time between the two games. When Bonk came out on the Amiga, or BC Kid, Bonk 2 was either out or in development, and so they used the character from Bonk 2, Bonk, and put him in this version of Bonk. So if if you look at the TurboGrafx version of this, Bonk looks a little bit different, and this is a little more detailed. It's a little more, the shading's a little bit different, and also some of the bosses, especially the end boss, look different on the Amiga version than they do on the other version. And there are some detailed backgrounds, and we'll get into that in a little bit. The music's totally different. The musician that worked on this, Chris Ulsbeck, which you'll remember that name.
That's Hybris, right?
Well, he did Monkey Island, R-Type. He did a ton of stuff, and he did Gianna Sisters as well. So it's
maybe
we've heard this guy's name. He did a bunch of stuff. The game, again, it runs on ECS, OCS, nothing special. This game was out on a bunch of different machines. We've already mentioned, obviously, the Game Boy, the Famicom. It came out on all the PC engines, all the various ones. It was it's on the Virtual Console as well, so it's pretty easy to get hold of. Now, I will say, and I'll get to this later with the eBay stuff, this game ain't cheap, brother. I can tell you that right now. And its later iterations on the TurboGrafx ain't cheap either. They get really expensive. So, and it's probably because it's a pretty in-demand game. So, the premise of Bonk, BC Kid. There I go again. BC Kid is a little kid with a big, huge head, enormous head, and his special powers involve headbutting and biting. So it's almost like an MMA guy. Are
you allowed to bite in MMA?
You're not supposed to, but what could you say? Every once in a while, when the ref's not looking, you let it go. In the game, his mission is to rescue Princess Za, which is a small dinosaur, pink, and she was kidnapped by the evil King Drool. All right, now I can tell you, I never got anywhere near Za and Drool, nowhere close. The best I could do was getting mostly to the end of level 2. There are cheats. We'll get into that in a minute. So it's a platforming game where you jump and bite and headbutt your way through. Now, on this game, if you're picturing like a Mario style game, Bonk doesn't jump on the bad guys, but he can do like a diving headbutt, aka Harley racing the Barbarian off the top rope. He jumps high in the air, spins himself upside down, and comes in like a meteor with his head, and which is pretty visually amusing. He also can just walk up and just headbutt stuff, just bam, and knock stuff off. Some things take more than one headbutt, obviously. He can jump. He can bounce on flowers that will make him jump higher. He can if he gets to into an area that he can't fully jump up like a wall, he can jump to the peak at the apex of his jump. He can grab the wall with his teeth, and the little veins on his head pop out, and his teeth are razor sharp. And he goes like rah, 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 and he'll go up the wall with his teeth. So which I always think that's pretty funny too.
Pretty funny.
The game is colorful. It's got a lot of crazy enemies. It's what you would expect of a platformer of that era, I guess. I mean, a good one. You're picking up fruit and stuff. Bonk also has the ability to, if he eats meat, he can build himself up to a more powerful version of himself. So if he eats like one meat, he changes color. It looks like he almost blows his top. So I guess his meat's spicy or just really likes meat. But if you eat I think it's 3 meats, or there's 2 different types of meats, like a smaller meat and then a big meat. And if he eats I think it's a total of 3 meats, he goes in super Bonk mode, which he glows green. He gets a real evil look on his face, and you can he's indestructible. Yeah, he runs through and just kills stuff. The other versions of Bonk will allow you to pound the ground with your head. It will knock people down. After he eats I think that's after. Is that 1 or 2 meats? I never pay attention to how many meat I'm eating, but he can pound the ground like a little earthquake around him, and
it's like a smart bomb effect.
Right. He can also do stuff like bounce the enemies he just vanquished on his head, which is always strange, like a soccer ball. He can even use his head to smack volcanic rocks out of the air. He can whack those. So his head's basically, as long as you're hitting stuff with your head, you're golden.
Right.
So The levels are, they're pretty varied. I mean, I only got to level 2, but I watched a video to see what all there was. And there's the usual stuff. There's a water level, there's a fire lava level, there's an ice level. It's the usual stuff you would expect. There you can occasionally find bonus areas that will let you bounce on stuff to collect vegetables or fruit. There's one bit where you have to use your teeth to go as high as you can on this wall, which is pretty interesting. There's early on in the game, you run up across a dinosaur, and then you get to the dinosaur, and he's wearing a ball hat, which I thought was amusing.
Yeah.
And you headbutt him, and he wakes up, he goes, bleh, and his tongue comes out, and he opens his mouth, and then bonk, without any reservation, just walks into the guy's mouth. And then you do battle in the dinosaur, which I thought was wacky.
Yeah.
And you go through his bowels and stuff, fighting all this stuff. It's real strange. And usually after at least the bosses I saw and the bosses I managed to fight, after you beat them, they're pretty happy that you took care of them because you're sort of like taking them out of a they've been mesmerized, basically. And so they like bonk into that. So it's an odd, cute game. With a lot of interesting... I mean, I will say the play mechanics, it reminded me in a weird way, not game-wise, but the play mechanics, it was a lot like James Bond 2. It's an odd mechanic that I've never used in a game where you're whacking stuff with your head, just like Pond could do that stretchy thing. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was fresh.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I really like Bonk. I had not played a lot of Bonk. I think Super Bonk might have been available on the original Nintendo, or maybe even Bonk 1, but it was a late release, and it's kind of hard to find. It's not a common game. So I never really played it growing up, and I was really impressed with both versions, with both the Amiga version and the TurboGrafx 16 version. I did remap up to jump I remapped a button instead of using up to jump in the Amiga version, and that I like that. I found that I was able to progress through the game without getting frustrated. Even though it was challenging, I never felt like it was being unfair. It's definitely in the upper echelon of Amiga platformers. I thought that the enemies were really varied. It wasn't until I played the TurboGrafx version that I saw what I believe to be some of the shortcomings. Mostly the shortcomings that I see looking at the TurboGrafx version versus the 8-bit version are the music is just so much better. And for me, when I'm playing a game like this, the music can either make or break a game. A platform. If you've got a nice jaunty tune, it keeps you inspired to want to play it longer. The Amiga music was not bad, but it just wasn't anything memorable. It was almost like it was added as an afterthought. No effect to Chris Husselbeck, but he didn't really do great things on the Amiga version of Gianna Sisters either. The TurboGrafx 16 version, by contrast, is very, very good music. It has this, I really like it. Before Aaron and I played the version, both versions tonight, I had in my mind that the Bonk sprite looked better on the TurboGrafx 16 version. I see now that that's a mistake. He really does look better in the Amiga version, which is to be expected because this is a much more powerful console. The backgrounds are, I don't really know if they're, I guess that they're a little bit more. They've got some contour in them. There's more of a background in each of the levels. Although for a TurboGrafx 16 game, it really does look nice. But overall, I like Bonk. I think it's a great game. I'd put it in the top 10 Amiga platformers we've covered on this show easily.
I agree. Oh, top 10. I'd say more like top 4 or 5.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
We disagreed strongly on some of the graphical elements of this. I'll go into this. I bought this game just yesterday for my TurboGrafx, and in fact, just last night got it to where I could actually play my TurboGrafx. So we had a good go of it, and of course, I'd played it before on there on emulation. But the TurboGrafx, if you consider when it came out, this game was made many years before it came out in the Amiga. So they had time to put in some, and I will, to Factor 5's credit, they actually went in, didn't have to do it, but they enhanced the game with some of the backgrounds are different. Like I said, the sprite for Bonk is different. It was based on Bonk 2, so they were able to take the graphics from that and bring those across. And of course, you're dealing with more powerful hardware as well. That said, and Bo sort of preferred the TurboGrafx version, and it's funny. The Amiga version looks better, and it plays fine. It really does. I would recommend this to anyone that had an Amiga that liked this sort of game. I mean, and the music, too. The music on the Amiga is real good. It sounds good. It's got sort of a... Well, hear me out here. I'm like Bo. I actually prefer the TurboGrafx version's music. And I think it's just flat out just because I like the tune better. I guess that's it. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Amiga's music. It sounds fine. It's
very forgettable.
Yeah, but I mean, it's okay. But I mean, I just like the TurboGrafx.
I mean, it's better than a needle in your ear.
Oh, right? It's not that bad. Come on, it's not that. But you're giving it the Lionheart. It didn't deserve that. Ulvac.
I love that that's a phrase now. Giving it the Lionheart.
That's right. But one thing we did discuss, and I have to admit, the TurboGrafx has a little control pad, and of course we played this one. I've played it on the Amiga with my trusty Wicco, and then we played it also with Boat's Xbox controller. And of the three, I will say that I think it control. I feel like I've got more precise control of the BC Kid with the original TurboGrafx controller. Now, part of that might be the learning curve for using a joystick for this sort of game is a little bit different. But when you do those diving headbutts, it can be tricky to land them properly. All right. On top of that, the one thing about the TurboGrafx, it's got turbo. I mean, there's a little switch you can flip, and it gives you the ability to have real rapid fire, and it makes a difference in some aspects of the game when you're going up ledges or performing certain maneuvers. It was made for that, and so that's a handy feature as well.
That was something that I had no idea about until you came over tonight.
Yeah,
it's almost. I guess it's apparent that the designers of this game had that in mind, because there are certain instances, like in bonus stages and things like that, where they almost want you to turn on the turbo, like when you're climbing up a ledge with your mouth. You can turn on that, you can flip that turbo switch and go right up it. So it's
funny that the TurboGrafx. It's funny. I have a TurboGrafx, yes, and I've had one for many years now, but really I haven't played it that much. It's not many games, and the fact that it had RF out made it a real troublesome unit to play with. But I've played it more in the past weekend than I've played it probably cumulatively since I bought it. And those little controllers are not bad little controllers. Now, I'll take the Wicco any day of the week. But again, this is a game where you have to sort of get used to it with the joystick. And, unlike Boat, I actually used up for jump. I will say, I want to point this out, that our buddies that put together the compilation discs, they put a Factor 5 compilation disc out in 2016 that has BC Kid on it, along with all the other, the Turricans and all the other stuff that Factor 5 did. And their version has 2-button support. So if you've got a gamepad with 2 buttons like your CD32 stick, which you would assumably that's what you'd be playing with since it's the compilation disc, you could have the jump. You could have the button for jump as opposed to hitting up. I will say, hitting up the jump, they did a good job translating the controls over. I mean, we talked about this, and we'll go into it again. Factor 5, they could have just did a straight port. We've seen plenty of ports from consoles that sucked. These guys, not only did they just do the port well, they added all the extra bonus stuff in there, and they really sat down and worked out the controls quite nicely, because with one button, you can still get it done. And it plays pretty well. Is it better with 2? Absolutely. I think we could both agree on that. But it's quite playable with one button. It runs well. I didn't notice any slowdowns or any weirdness. I was playing the WHD version, but the load times I've always read were pretty okay. Not too bad. And it's a good. They did a good job. It's got pretty much all the content from the original. There's no bonus stages or anything, but They made the end bosses a couple levels look better. Like I said, they made Bonk look better. They made the backgrounds look better. So it's a good enhanced version. If you've got the TurboGrafx version, I would play this just to get that, just to see what they've changed. I mean, it might be more, it might be fun for you. So overall, I give it strong marks. I've enjoyed it. My kid loves it. Bonk's amusing. He's fun to watch him do his gimmick. He does a bunch of crazy stuff in this.
He's got a lot of personality. When he's hit, he doesn't just start flashing like so many bad platforming games. He actually has an animation where his eyes bug out, and he screams.
Yeah. And when he gets killed, finally, he sort of floats back into his own logo, and then you can continue from there. I will say the continue in this is brutal. Mm-hmm. It starts you at the beginning of, like, the levels are broke down into separate stages. So if you're on stage 4 of your level or 3 and you get killed, you go all the way back to stage 1 of whatever level you're on, and that can be brutal. Yeah. And you have a certain amount of guys, and then once they're gone, they're gone. Now there is a cheat.
And you can get extra.
Yes.
Lives there.
There is a cheat that will give you infinite lives, which I will post it up on our thing there. It's a complicated joystick maneuver, that's not easy. But still, unlimited lives would help because I couldn't find anything to give you vulnerability. There may be a trainer out there, but I didn't see it. Because that would ideally it'd be nice to have that. I guess maybe because of the way the game is, they just don't have the ability to do that.
So how did this game review in the popular press of the time?
It did pretty well, all things considered. Let me get my handy dandy out here. So. Amiga actually gave it 90. Amiga Format only gave it 70%. Of course, some of these guys were reviewing this in 93. So these are. I've noticed when they go back and re-review games, they always kill them.
Right, so which seems unfair.
It does. And having looked through the magazines Rappy got us, it's funny. I'll look through the re-reviews, and they are garbage jerky about it. It's like, look at this thing. It's old and crap. It's like, well, yeah, it's 3 years old, pal. On the initial run. They were a bit kinder. Amiga games give it 92%. Joker, who have killed things in the past, gave it 85. And Amiga Mania. Have we ever talked about Amiga Mania? I didn't hear that one, but I saw it up here, 92%. Amiga Power, 89. I think, were it me, and a reviewer, again, we're not reviewers. We just call them like we see them. I could see this going into that 90% area. I mean, I look at games, I look at platformers and compare them to what I think were the best platformers in the system. I usually stick, much like yourself, I know it's your game, but I'd say Addams Family is amongst the best platformers. And I would put that somewhere, this somewhere in the ballpark.
Sure, I would too.
Of that.
No question. No question.
Plus, this, much like Addams Family, this has a lot of charisma and a lot of and I'll tell you one thing that this game is that a lot of games are on the Amiga. Most of your best platformers were on consoles, and let's be frank about it. This is a very console-y feeling game on a computer, right? And if you're converting from the console, that's the best praise you can get.
Right.
So that's all I can say. I will say also that this was developed right about the same time that Factor 5 was starting on Turrican 3. So it was right in that little. So they were really they're really moving along quite nicely about there. This was a, of course, I think Factor 5, they're still around, aren't they?
Yeah. They've just got the rights back for Turrican or something like that.
So. Well, good luck. Yeah. But I think it's great when these guys stick around.
Did you look on eBay to see what
I did.
Action was going on?
Yeah, this is something we're talking about here, the eBay action. So. You would think, I didn't know what to think on this one. And by the way, another game, I don't know if this got a North American release. No one's selling one, and no one sold one anytime recently. So that's usually what I go on. So this thing, there are 2 current auctions up for this game. One's in Germany and one's in UK. These are what I call fishing auctions. They're fishing for a sucker. They're looking for between $100 and $300 or $150 and $300 shipped for a box copy, which is a lot. Now, I looked to see what had been sold recently, and this game's sort of all over the map. All these have been sold in the UK. Again, nothing in America, nothing anywhere else. And I know this was shipped in they're shipped in multiple languages: Italian, French, German. So I mean, I'm sure they released it all over Europe when they released it. But these are only UK versions. I saw a couple go for $30, one going for $20, and one went for $60. These are all boxed. I saw no one just selling the discs. It was all or nothing on these. So your mileage may vary on box. I have a feeling if you've got this one, this game has gotten a lot. This game's got a lot more press recently. I mean, the box series. I've read about it a lot more, and it got released on the Virtual Console last year, and I know it did real well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new version of Bonk coming out sometime soon, because this game has a lot of good. It's got a lot of love, and a lot of people are discovering it for the first time, in the console scene. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more Bonk in the near future. So the prices on this might go up. So this is probably one you want to hang on to for a while to see what it does.
Cool. All right. Well, it's time to thank the fine folks that make Amigos possible. I'm talking about you, Patreon supporters. So, we have a couple new faces this week, as I read them. Adam Battersby, John Marshall, Darren Coles, Neil Mansell, Brutal Barracuda, Alan Kebab, David McCrandles, Gary Hucker, Will Williams, Ravi Abbott, Kim Tommy Humbertstad,
nice,
Josh Nan, Jason Warnes, Lane, Eric Nelson, Graham Webke, Paul Harrington, Rob O'Hara, Laurent Giroux, Kjolborn Barman, Tapes from the Crib, Adam Bradley, Chris Foltz, Daniel Bingston, O'Brien's Retro Vintage, Chad Halstead, and Brent Dowdy. Thank you so much for your support. We could not do Amigos without you guys. If you would like to help support Amigos, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast. And we'd also like to thank World of Long Plays for that in-game bonk footage from the show. They do a lot of great work over there.
Yeah, indeed. I don't know how they had the time.
I don't either.
A staff of thousands, I would wager.
Next week, Aaron, we're going to do another twofer, but it's going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a new series called Same Name, Different Game.
Okay.
We're going to cover the Amiga version of Jaws, and then we're going to look at the NES version of Jaws and see, are they alike? Are they different? Are they even the same game?
I'm going to tell you, I saw this on the docket, and I have never played either, and I've obviously heard of the film. I didn't know anything about either. I have no idea. So, I mean, I'm completely in the dark on this one. I got no clue.
All right.
I don't know where you came up with this one. You're crazy. You're crazy.
It's going to be a good one. We'll see you then, guys. Until then,
Adios.